The evening of May 1st, 2010. Imagine the scene. Times Square, New York City, the heart of the world, buzzing with energy. Tourists are everywhere, their cameras flashing under the giant glowing billboards. Crowds are pouring out of Broadway theaters, still humming the tunes from the shows they just saw. Street vendors are busy, selling hot dogs and souvenirs, making the most of a lively Saturday night. Everything is exactly as it should be. It's just another magical night in the city that never sleeps. But in the middle of all that beautiful chaos, one person noticed something wasn't right. A t-shirt vendor, scanning the crowds, saw a thin wisp of smoke curling out from a parked SUV, a dark green Nissan Pathfinder parked awkwardly near West 45th Street. At first glance, you might dismiss it. Maybe the engine's overheating, right? A common city sight. But then he caught a smell. It wasn't the familiar, oily scent of burning gasoline. It was something else. A sharp, chemical odor. That small detail, that gut feeling that something was wrong, changed everything. Instead of just shrugging it off and getting back to work, the vendor did something crucial. He walked over to a nearby mounted police officer and pointed out the smoking vehicle. That simple act set off a chain reaction. Within minutes, the NYPD was on the scene. They didn't hesitate. They saw the smoke, understood the potential danger, and immediately started clearing the area. People were confused, maybe a little annoyed at having their night interrupted, but they were moved away from the SUV, creating a safety perimeter. When the officers got a closer look inside the Pathfinder, the scene went from strange to terrifying. And this was no simple engine fire. The vehicle was a rolling bomb, packed with a crude but deadly cocktail of destructive materials. There were 3 large propane tanks, the kind you use for a barbecue. There were jerrycans filled with gasoline to act as an accelerant. Piles of fireworks, intended to ignite the main charge. And then, the core of the bomb. Bags of fertilizer, a common ingredient in homemade explosives. All of it was wired together with a series of simple alarm clocks, rigged to act as detonators. The whole thing was designed to cause maximum carnage. But here's where the story takes a turn. The bomb failed. It had partially ignited. The fireworks went off, creating the smoke the vendor had spotted, but they failed to set off the main explosive charge of fertilizer and gasoline. It was a dud. A stroke of incredible luck in a place where luck can run out fast. Bomb disposal experts later confirmed that if the device had detonated as planned, it would have unleashed a massive, fiery explosion. It would have sent shrapnel flying for hundreds of feet, tearing through the dense crowds. In one of the most iconic and populated spots on the planet, the result would have been a horrific tragedy, with countless lives lost. The entire area was immediately put on lockdown. The bomb squad moved in, shutting down Times Square completely. The usual roar of the city fell silent. Hotels, restaurants, and theaters were evaporated. The bright lights that normally turn night into day seemed to dim as heavily armored officers and bomb-defusing robots carefully approached the vehicle. Piece by piece, they painstakingly dismantled the device, making it safe. The immediate threat was over, but a new one had just begun, finding the person responsible. The suspect, a man named Fazil Shahzad, had already made his escape. He believed his plan had succeeded and was trying to flee the country. But he left a trail. Investigators worked tirelessly, using clues from the vehicle itself, including the VIN number, which had been imperfectly scratched off. They pieced together his movements and identified him in a remarkably short amount of time, just 2 days after the failed attack, as Shahzad was sitting on a plane at JFK Airport. Minutes away from taking off on an international flight to Dubai, federal agents boarded the aircraft and arrested him. He was taken into custody without a fight. He later confessed to the plot and was sentenced to life in prison. Think about that. It was no dramatic, last-second countdown you see in movies. It wasn't a big, fiery explosion that rocked the city. The disaster was averted not by a superhero, but by an ordinary person, a street vendor who was paying attention. He trusted his gut, he spoke up, and he stopped what could have been one of the worst attacks in New York's history. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest catastrophes are prevented not with a bang, but with a quiet observation. They're stopped because one person refused to look away. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as incredible as I did, consider subscribing for more.